If I have done all of these at the beginning of my artist alley career, who knows how much better off I'd be right now. Hi, I'm Macy and I'm the artist and designer behind Mualcaina, a small business focused on kawaii merch. I've ended at 41 events so far in the past 2 years, some of my largest being Anime Expo, Fanime, and Anime Central. While the main focus of this video is artist alley specific, I do apply my own experience from non-con events like 626 Night Market. Now, if I could start over an artist alley, I wouldn't be too eager when it comes to signing up for events. Now, it's really easy to want to sign up for as many events as possible just to fill up your event calendar. And especially if you do have artist friends, it is easy to feel a little bit left out when all of them are at an event and you're not there. However, I did make this mistake in 2023 when I signed up for a lot of night market events before I even knew if they would work out for me. While these events did go well for some of my friends a year prior, little did we know the night market scene would be less than ideal the following year, some being even my worst performing events. It became so overwhelming that for probably half of the night market events that I signed up for, I actually ended up backing out just because I did not want to drive back and forth from NorCal to LA for multiple weekends, and especially some of them were consecutive weekends as well. Now, it may be different for you if you're just starting out and you do need to vend one-day events to get practice before doing multiple-day events, but I would recommend slowing down and taking your time and don't overburden yourself with too many events when you actually don't know if you can handle it. Having at least one event per month is fine if you do want a consistent schedule while not missing out on anything. And it does give you enough time between events to prepare without burning out. In the beginning, but also this is something that you can continually do during your artist alley career, I would recommend making more vendor friends. So I identify as an extroverted introvert, and when I need to, I can come across as outgoing. However, when it comes to meeting and introducing myself to people, I do feel a little bit shy. It's funny because I was talking to another friend about this, and I feel that most of my vendor friendships actually happen because they came to me first. Honestly, I get into my head rather easily, and sometimes I'm worried that I'm going to come across as too strong or too awkward, which is why it is rare for me to go up to people. And with all of that, I did realize that I need to be a bit more proactive when it comes to meeting new people. While I did meet mutuals even at the beginning of my con career, I didn't really get close to many of them until 9 or 10 months later when I started getting dinner with friends after Anime Expo Chibi. After that, it did get easier since we'd always go out, and now I'm at a point where we actively try to hang out even if there isn't an event going on. And almost at every event, I do go out for dinner with vendor friends. So looking back, if I had made more of an effort to make friends earlier in my artist alley career, I probably would have enjoyed the vending scene much earlier. When it comes to finances, I would also consider splitting a table. Granted, I did not have a lot of artist friends to be able to split a table. However, if you're new to Artist Alley, some cons do allow you to share a table with another artist. So if a table is, let's say the standard is 6 feet, one artist could have 3 feet of vending space and then the other artist can have the remaining space, or you can split it however you want, 4 feet, 2 feet, and so on. But if I did, let's say, consider sharing a table with someone else, I feel like that could have helped me in my first year of doing Artist Alley. If you don't know anyone who does want to split a table, let's say you don't have Artist Alley friends in the beginning right now, you can reach out to people in the Artist Alley Network International Discord and then see if anyone is willing to do so. And more often than not, someone is willing to take the chance if you already have a table lined up. You can save a lot of money by paying half the cost, and sharing tables does give you the option to at least have someone at the table who can keep an eye on your stuff if you do need to go to the restroom. I'll also add that some events and conventions don't allow split tables. I'm not sure why, but I'm assuming it's for legal or financial purposes. But if you do want a taste of the artist alley scene without the full commitment and large investment, since a lot of tables now have gone up in price, I believe Anime Expo, even though I know they don't do shared tables starting this year, but for new artists for AX, it's about $750, and for returning artists, I think we paid about $650. So you can see tables now have gotten much higher in price. So if this is a very large investment for yourself and that you can't afford to lose that much money, I would consider sharing a table. Before moving on to the next tip, I do want to share that Mualcaina is finally on Patreon. If you're not familiar with Patreon, it is a subscription service where you can support creators in exchange for additional exclusive content. In my case, if you want even more artist alley advice, sneak peeks of upcoming products, and more, you can get all of that on Patreon. So if you want more exclusive content or you just want to support this channel, feel free to check out my Patreon. It is down below in the description box. Another thing I wish I did was transport my inventory using suitcases. Now, I started off with some small bins that I already had because I'm not going to spend on something when I don't know if I'm going to enjoy the artist alley scene. And I also had a wagon that I can borrow, so kept it at that. However, I eventually grew out of the bins in a few months, and when I needed more space, I got these larger heavy-duty bins that a lot of vendors use that have a black body and a yellow lid. They're actually perfect for outdoor events since I have run into situations where it rained and the inside of my canopy got slightly wet, and I didn't have to worry about my items getting wet because they were in that weatherproof bin. However, the only issue with these bins is that you would need some kind of wagon or dolly to transport them. I realized how limiting bins could be when I made the mistake of forgetting my wagon at Anime Impulse OC. It was horrible. Awful. Don't recommend. I was lucky that I had my personal suitcase at the time to at least help wheel things in, but it was just so much slower because I didn't have my wagon. It was awful. Now I primarily use suitcases since it is quite common in Artist Alley, and they automatically have wheels, so I don't really have to worry about needing a wagon or a dolly. Suitcases also reduce the amount of trips to use the elevator at events because the elevator line can be insane. In turn, I would just use the escalator instead, assuming the venue had not turned it off at the end of the event. I also noticed that it does help me become more accustomed to packing for conventions if I do need to fly there, just so I know where everything should go in a suitcase more easily versus having to switch out my inventory from bin to suitcase. Now, to make things easier for customers, I would put my products into a catalog for them to easily view. If you're not familiar with how a catalog would work at a convention, it's so customers can see what products you have available without looking at your display. And it's also easier for them to see prices if they do have poor eyesight. I don't believe I had a catalog until about 5 months into vending. This is more feasible if you have a lot of a specific item, let's say a lot of designs for enamel pins, but it is generally more helpful if people want to point out an item but don't know the name of a specific character, let's say if they're buying it for a gift. It's also easier for anyone helping you out at a convention and may not be familiar with the characters customers are referring to, and a catalog allows them to visually see the item in front of them. I would also consider putting the catalog on your website and then post a QR code somewhere on your table display and see all of your available products. Having a QR code does allow those who don't have access to your physical catalog, let's say you already had 2 catalogs up front but someone else already took those 2 and now people are going to have to wait for them. It does allow them to see what they want ahead of time so they're not deciding while they're in front of you. Overall, it does help keep things flowing more smoothly and much more quickly. Besides making a catalog, I would also post my catalog and table location on socials. Typically, artists will post a map of their table location and their catalog of what they're going to have at a con, so followers can anticipate and plan their purchases prior to the convention. I didn't start doing this until Anime Expo 2022 when I noticed that other artists were posting their catalogs and table locations. I then realized how helpful it could be when attendees came up to my table and showed me the items that they wanted circled for my catalog post. This is perfect for attendees who want to stick to their budget and plan out their purchases in advance, as well as for those who can't attend but want to point out what they want their friend who is attending to purchase at your table. Now, I do this with most major cons, and I try to post at least a week in advance so most of my followers can see it since the algorithm may not reach everyone. I typically try to post it on all of my socials to reach the greatest number of people, so that's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. I also wish that I had worked on my sales skills much earlier. Now, before Artist Alley, I did have some experience with customer service and retail, so this wasn't entirely new to me. However, in the beginning, I was a little shy when it came to selling in person, so I wasn't as properly assertive as I could be, especially when it comes to mentioning my deals. As I worked more events, I learned to mention my deals because I learned from my friends who did help me at events, and I really liked how they mentioned them to customers. Before, I didn't say anything if someone buys one pin, but now I'll make the effort to ask if they want 2 more pins for the 3 for $40 deal, and same thing with the other items that do have deals. More often than not, most customers didn't even know that there was a deal, and they would jump on it since it is a good one. Occasionally, some will just stick with their 1 or 2 pins or stickers, and obviously that's totally fine. I might not have been able to do this in the beginning, however, now that I have more products, I would look into shipping excess inventory. And this is something that I would do at my next convention that involves flying. However, I reckon this isn't necessarily something that you need to do if you're just starting an Artist Alley and in your business when you don't have a lot of items. However, I am at a point now where I may need to ship a few boxes if I were to go to an out-of-state convention such as ASIN. I've not done it myself yet, however, I do have some friends who have shipped out their inventory since they do have a lot of bulky items such as apparel. From my understanding, you do need to check in with your hotel or lodging if they can accept packages on your behalf. If it's a yes, then you should drop off your packages at a post office or any shipment service at least a couple weeks prior to your event, also depending on how far away it is. I would say that some convention centers do accept packages, however, this service is usually reserved for exhibitors in the vendor/exhibitor hall and not necessarily artists in Artist Alley. For longer conventions, I would definitely suggest writing your table location on business cards. I can't remember when I first started doing this, but I'm going to assume that I started at Anime LA in 2023. Basically, if an event is about 3 to 4 days, and this is a type of event that a lot of attendees go most, if not all of the days, then I would write my table number on a small number of business cards for the first couple days. Typically, the first few days are when most attendees are scoping out the convention and perusing tables to return later. By putting my table number on my business cards, if someone is interested in coming back later, they'll know where to go rather than rushing around Artist Alley to find me. I also say to do this on a small number of business cards because if not enough people take those business cards that have your table number and the convention name on it, it's gonna be a little strange to have those extras at another convention when that's not your current table location. Usually I start off with the first 50 cards, and then once those are taken, I'll probably write a little bit more depending on the day and whatnot. At the end of the day, you want to make it as easy as possible for them to find you. Otherwise, it'll be too much work for them and you probably lost a purchase. After 2 years of Artist Alleys, I can proudly say that I do most of these things, and they've definitely made my life a lot easier when it comes to Artist Alley. With so many ways to organize your table display, it can be difficult to decide how to do so. Watch this video on how to set up a successful table display.